वाद लाया गया है उसके विषय में आपको कुछ बताना चाहती हूँ। तो इस प्रकार है, जो वादी है उसने प्रथम प्रतिवादी रजिस्टर विक्रय पत्र दिनांक 18/3/1980 के आधार पर वादग्रस्त संपत्ति का स्वामी है। तृतीय प्रतिवादी प्रथम प्रतिवादी का पुत्र है। वादी ने वादग्रस्त संपत्ति को 10,000 में क्रय करने के लिए विक्रय अनुबंध दिनांक 5/7/1995 को प्रतिवादी कर से किया था। विक्रय अनुबंध के दिनांक को प्रतिवादीगण को प्रतिवादी ने संपूर्ण विक्रय राशि अदा कर दी गई थी। डिफेंडेंट ने जो विवादित प्रॉपर्टी है उसकी ओनरशिप जो है वो वादी को ट्रांसफर कर दी थी, उसी दिन सौंप दी थी। उसके बाद जो वादी है उसने विवादित प्रॉपर्टी का उपयोग भी किया तब से अब तक। डिफेंडेंट ने D1 के पक्ष में निष्पादित ओरिजिनल सेल डीड भी 18/3/1980 को उसी दिन विक्रय अनुबंध दिनांक को दे दिया था। विक्रय अनुबंध के अनुसार प्रतिवादीगण वादी अथवा उसके द्वारा नामित व्यक्ति के पक्ष में विक्रय अनुबंध निष्पादित करने को सहमत हुए थे। महोदय 5/6/2007 को वादी ने प्रतिवादीगण से मौखिक तौर पर बोला था कि अपने पक्ष में विक्रय निष्पादित करने के लिए कहा था। जो प्रतिवादीगण हैं उन्होंने मौखिक तौर पे ही कहा था कि वो विक्रय अनुबंध उसको निष्पादित कर दी, जिस पर प्रतिवादीगण ने 6 माह के भीतर विक्रय पत्र निष्पादित करने का कहा था। क्योंकि वह लोग त्रिपुरा में नौकरी कर रहे थे, इस वजह से जो वादी है वो मान भी गया था कि जब आप चाहेंगे तब वो कर देंगे, और क्योंकि वो रिलेशन में भी आते थे इस वजह से उसने ऐसा स्वीकार कर लिया। उसके पश्चात भी प्रतिवादीगण ने वादी के पक्ष में विक्रय पत्र निष्पादित नहीं किया। दिनांक 4/1/2009 को वादी को यह ज्ञात हुआ कि प्रतिवादीगण उक्त वादग्रस्त संपत्ति का बाजार मूल्य बढ़ जाने के कारण उसे किसी अन्य व्यक्ति को विक्रय करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं, जिस कारण वादी ने संविदा के अपने भाग का पालन करने के लिए सदैव तत्पर एवं इच्छुक रहा है, यह झूठी बात कही। प्रतिवादीगण को अपने पक्ष में विक्रय पत्र निष्पादित करने का नोटिस भी भेजा, जो कि दिनांक 6/1/2009 को भेजा गया। तो किंतु जो प्रतिवादीगण हैं उन्होंने उसका कोई भी जवाब नहीं भेजा। आधिपत्य में हस्तक्षेप करने का प्रयास भी किया। उपरोक्त परिस्थितियों में वादी के द्वारा संविदा के विनिर्दिष्ट अनुपालन एवं स्थायी निषेधाज्ञा का दावा पेश किया जाता है। माननीय अब कुछ साक्ष्य जो कि ये विद्वान अधिवक्ता प्रस्तुत करेंगे इस प्रकार है।
ऑनरेबल सर, मैं आपके सामने इस बात के संबंध में कुछ फैक्ट और एविडेंस रखना चाहूँगा, अनुमति चाहूँगा आपकी। सबसे पहले वादी ने स्वयं को और अन्य 3 लोगों को साक्ष्य के रूप में परीक्षित किया है, जो कि पहला साक्षी क्रमांक 2 अनुबंध पत्र प्रमाणक है। क्रमांक 2 व 3 जो 2 लोग हैं उन्होंने अनुबंध पत्र को प्रमाणक के ऊपर उनकी उपस्थिति में प्रमाणित हुआ अनुबंध पत्र। साक्षी क्रमांक 3 जो कि लेखक है जिसने अनुबंध पत्र लेखित किया है। साक्षी क्रमांक 4 जो कि वो वादी साक्षी क्रमांक 2 एवं 3 प्रदर्श A1 के अनुबंध पत्र के प्रमाणक साक्षी हैं, जबकि वादी साक्षी 4 प्रदर्श A1 के अनुबंध पत्र का लेखक है। दस्तावेज के प्रमाणक साक्षियों के अतिरिक्त वादी ने वाद पत्र के अभिवचनों को प्रमाणित करने के लिए अन्य किसी स्वतंत्र साक्षी को परीक्षित नहीं किया। फिर भी वादी एवं प्रतिवादीगण के मध्य एकमात्र पत्राचार हुआ है, जो कि दिनांक 5/1/2009 को वादी के द्वारा प्रतिवादीगण को भेजा गया था। प्रदर्श A3 का नोटिस मात्र है। वाद पेश करने के पूर्व भेजे गए नोटिस को प्रदर्श A1 के रूप में प्रदर्शित किया गया था। फिर इसके बाद प्रतिवादी के द्वारा जो ये नोटिस प्राप्त हुआ था उसकी रिसिप्ट भी डाक अभिस्वीकृति प्रदर्श A8 के रूप में प्रदर्शित किया गया है। नोटिस का जो जवाब भेजा गया था उसे प्रदर्श A7 के रूप में प्रदर्शित किया गया, उसकी कॉपी B1 के रूप में प्रदर्शित है। प्रदर्शित B2 का अभिस्वीकृत कार्ड यह प्रदर्शित करता है कि इसे वादी के अधिवक्ता द्वारा दिनांक 24/1/2005 को प्राप्त किया गया।
Admit and deny the facts. The contention in para 1 is admitted and need no reply. The
contention in paragraph 2 is partly admitted and partly denied. The contention in paragraph 3 is fully admitted. The contention in paragraph 4 is denied. The contention in paragraph 5 is also denied, as it is improper. The contention in paragraph 6, paragraph 7, paragraph 8 and 9 and 10 respectively all are denied. Now let me present the pleadings. Defendants deny all the avertments by the plaintiff's pleadings. According to defendants, Defendant 2, second defendant, borrowed the sum of Rs 10,000 in 1991 from plaintiff as a debt. Defendant executed a promissory note in favor of plaintiff as a security for the borrowed amount. Defendants also paid interest at the rate Rs 3 per 100 per month. But since they incurred loss in business, they could not pay the interest to plaintiff and handed over original sale deed as a security to the same. Defendants also given signed blank stamp papers to plaintiff for the security of the non-paymented interest. Plaintiff informed that he is taking blank stamp papers only as a security to debt and not as a sale agreement. In July 1995, defendants tried to dispose the property for discharging the loan of plaintiff, but plaintiff prevented them from doing so using blank stamp papers. Defendants are willing and intended to repay the entire amount, that is including principal amount plus interest. Defendants did not receive the alleged notice sent by plaintiff dated 5th of January 2009. The alleged sale agreement of 5th July 1995 is not genuine and not meant for selling property but merely and only a loan transaction.
On this, I like to ask that she has seen two sentences and repeating it regularly. First, she says that it is the agreement is for only mortgage and for interest. It is not for sale agreement or not anything is sale as a property to her. And third one is that the notice has not been received. These two lines is stated in 2 para or 3 para by her. The first answer is about the interest, that this sale agreement is only to mortgage and the bank stamp paper is given, but nobody, only for 10,000 give the blank bank stamp paper to filling the amount only about the 10,000, and the interest part was right, but it is only the part of this entire part, half part of the sale agreement. It is done because they are not executing the sale agreement in their favor. So they ask that I will do that for you, and after that when I don't do it, you can use it. But it is the part of the whole sale agreement, not that only the amount is given. And the other part, she is saying that notice has not been received. We have submitted the document XA1 about that notice has been received, and they had acknowledged the notice and returned it to us, and by the acknowledgement document is also submitted to the court, so that they cannot deny that notice has not been received to them, because both two documents about the notice, that one sending and received by the first defendant also came back, both the documents are submitted. If they have something more to say, then don't take it into 2 paragraphs, say directly.
They are continuously relying on the notice, and they are saying that we received the notice and we replied and they submitted all the documents related to it. So the notice, I think they have not read the date properly. The notice which is unserved, which I am talking about, is dated 2007, January 2007, which is unserved. That is written in their pleadings also, that it is unserved, the notice of 2007, and the reply and all that they are talking about, the postal charges, that is the notice of 2005, pre-suit notice. The notice is different, they are mixing the dates.
Sir, we have noticed the honorable court view of this whole transaction is same, and the plaintiff has also deposed that he has paid 10,000 rupees whole sum in the sale agreement date in itself. Sir, here is the transaction argued. Transaction is not a sale transaction. This transaction is a mortgage transaction. My defendant has said that D1 and D2. D2 is the son of the D1. D2 has said that we have borrowed the 10,000 rupees from the purchaser and plaintiff. He had, as a security of debt, he had tendered one promissory note and 3 blank stamp paper signed with given to the plaintiff. Sir, this transaction is not a sale. In ordinary course of business, which were relevant under section 13, a token money has been given in a sale agreement, not full sum. Sir, this full sum paid is indicate that this transaction is not sale agreement. This transaction mortgage. Once it is pleaded that mortgage, plaintiff has proved that this transaction is sale, not a mortgage. Sir, defendant has deposed some other evidence in this regard. First, plaintiff has denoted as a witness. Several witnesses are there. One is a writer of the sale agreement. Another is two witnesses which were not independent witness. Sir, these are the writer, not an independent. Sir, writer has a interest in this agreement. Sir, whole agreement is time barred. Once the agreement is proved, sir, whole transaction is time barred. Agreement is 1995 and the suit is filed 2009. There are certain link here between the transactions. Sir, once the limitation is decided, sir, sale agreement cannot be specifically performed in accordance with the law. In section 16 of the Special Relief Act clearly said that once the plaintiff has in personal bar has regarded the special performance in the suit. Sir, section 10 of SR clearly said that contract is specifically performed. Sir, here is contract. Contract is according to the Contract Act. Sir, Contract Act 1872, section 23 said that there is any fraud, any irregularity, the contract is not made legal. Sir, if there is not contract, so not specifically performed in this case.
As he's talking about the time gap, because they have the mutual understanding and they are being guarded by the relationship is fair, and it is not that he is not ready and willing to perform his part by the plaintiff, because as SRA section 16C has defined that there is necessary to be a readiness and willingness to the person, but there is not any circumstances written that how you can prove your readiness and willingness to the court. But all the circumstances say because he has deposited the amount then and there, and he has presented in the court, and he has asked him for several time to execute the sale during his favor, but still it is not done by them. So we cannot say that plaintiff is not ready and willing to perform his promise. And as he is saying, the time gap. The contract, the sale agreement is not a time-barred agreement, as section 55 of Contract Act says that if the contract is not limited by the time and it is not essential of a time, then they cannot take this defense that time has been passed, so it should not be claimed for a specific performance. And there are many cases in which limitation period has been exceeded, and still the plaintiff has got the right. The first case was the Brahman versus Natarajan. In this case, the suit has been sale agreement dated in 1893, but the suit has came to the court in 2008, which is the maximum that 1450. It is a 16 years gap in between. And there is another case, Umabai versus Nilkant Chavda. All the facts are the same. Still, the suit has been admitted in a court after 16 years, so they cannot take this defense. The time has been passed, so they cannot come to the court and do that. Anything else?
Sir, plaintiff has deposed that the time is not essential to the contract. So there is also the provision. Time is not essential to the provision. There are certain time which has been is a reasonable time has been deposed. So there was no reasonable time. If reasonable time has been passed, what is the reasonable time is not defined under any of the provision of the law. It has been deposed the various decision of the apex court. So reasonable time is considered as the circumstances of the case. So here is sale agreement dated 1995. Here is the value of the property is different. But sir, case has been filed in 2009. Here is the value of the property is different of the decade of the platinum. Sir, in provision of the Limitation Act has been deposed. Section 3 of the Limitation Act said that once the suit instituted after the prescribed period, the suit shall be dismissed.
Sir, as he himself saying that the but the contract is not in contract. There is no any prescribed period. It is not the time mentioned period. Again, I don't want to repeat my fact. I have given you two cases. All the facts are the same. You can check if you want to show. All the facts are the same. Still, court has granted them relief after 15 and 16 years. Again, they are repeating only two things. That time is not, and I have answered that already. There's something new to then they can come on.
We are repeatedly trying limitation. So let me clear this limitation point first. Crime is a idiom, not literal crime. So according to Article 54 Limitation Act, it says, I am reading as it is, the limitation for the suit for a specific performance is 3 years if no date fixed. If the date is fixed from the date of the performance, it is 3 years, and if no date is specified, then when the day when plaintiff got the intimation about the refusal of the other party, from then the limitation will start to run. And in this case, as they sent the pre-suit notice in 2005 and got the reply of the same as per them, so they got the intimation about our refusal and our reluctance to take the agreement. That is 2005, but they filed the suit in 2009. That is 4 years, clearly time barred.
Sir, they are only stating the statement. They have no evidence, not even a single evidence to prove their point. I have submitted a list of evidence. They have not any evidence. And again they are talking about the limitation. I clearly mentioned the limitation section comes when the contract is a time-varied contract. It is not a time-varied contract as section 55 of Indian Contract Act 72 says. So they do not come to the limitation act. First, before the contract made, it is stated that it is not a time-varied act. I have submitted my document. Then we can, if it was a time-varied act, then we can say that section 54 of Limitation Act. Otherwise, we cannot. And I have also submitted the case in which 15 and 16-year gap has been agreed by the court. Then why again and again taking the contract? They have nothing to say. Only one thing, that time-varied is Limitation Act is this. And as section 91 and 92 says that they cannot take advantage by saying only oral things, that this is like that, this is that. They cannot take 91 and 92 according to the evidence as the leader. And the thing they said that notice has been given and this, but they have the mutual relationship, and we file a case when we know that they are interfering in my possession. As he knows, they have confirmed him that they will execute the sale agreement in their favor after 6 months. Still they do not. Still he has not taken any action because he knows that they will not cheat him because they share one kind of relationship. And when we have something, we don't get to the court directly. My plaintiff waited for him, and when they have interfered on 6/1/2009 in his possession, then he came to the court and filed the suit against him.
They are saying about the relationship and we are telling that it is a loan transaction and not an agreement. So relationship has no point. And you are saying that when you got the intimation that we refused, then you filed the suit. So
No, I am not saying that. You said saying that when they interfere in the possession of the court, then they file.
you sent the notice, pre-suit notice in 2005, which we replied. You got the reply in 21st of January 2005. Then you got the intimation that we are not interested in any sale agreement. Then why did you wait for 4 years, which is 2009, to file the suit? Why didn't you file the suit in the 2005 itself?
Honorable sir, again they are coming. I have submitted the cases that time limit is not essential. Contract is made in section 55. It is not time valid. They have nothing to say. Then again repeating why are just. I have submitted all the things. Why is there time limit? There two cases I have submitted the document also in the relationship status. They have nothing. They have no evidence for what they are saying. They are continuously repeating.
Okay, sir, let's get away with the limitation for a while, and let's come to the other points. In the first para of the plaintiff's pleading, it is said that the suit property is the owner. Defendant 1 is the owner of suit property by virtue of a registered sale deed 1980. That means the suit property in dispute is a self-acquired property of the defendant 1, and a According to Hindu Succession Act, the son has no legal right over father's self-acquired property. It has right only over the ancestral property, or unless the father gives away by the will or deed or by gift, or converts into joint Hindu property. But they have not done so. So the dependent too had no title over the property, and they made him the party of the contract. It says that it is not a sale contract. It is only a loan transaction.
I would like to answer that. As he is saying that defendant second is not a part of the contract, but when the sale agreement done, first of all I want to know what is the meaning of sale agreement. Before signing the sale agreement, all the conditions, parties name, and after that both the parties sign are mentioned there. And when they have agreed that they have represented themselves as a two parties, as they are talking about the plaintiff's pleading, they have stated the one line that defendant is not a part of it. It is written, the agreement is with the defendants. There is an S. The agreement is not with defendant. If there is a S, there is a two parties, and before signing the sale agreement, parties name and how many parties they are involving in it is already written. So document is not only signed by two parties, we have submitted the document also, the evidence also in which PW2 and PW3 are assisters. They are submitting the genuineness of a genuineness of a document by signing it. So it is clearly mentioned when their parties are mentioned. By that side, two parties has mentioned as a defendant. It is signed by the PW2 and PW3 attested, which is already submitted to the document.
So before we are submitting the case, we have to indicate the certain provisions of law which were dealt with the court. Sir, first, plaintiff has submitted that defendants and plaintiff has relationship between them. Sir, relationship is had, so the transaction of this type of sale deed is deposed by the defendant. Defendant has submitted are signed seal cover documents which were deposed by the defendant in relation to which them her, and there are certain other factums they are concerned. The plaintiff submitted that section 92 has declared the oral submissions, but sir, section 92 proviso 1 said that if any irregularity has been committed, oral submission has been admitted in this regard. And sir, defendant has said several times said that he has relationship with the plaintiff. In those relationships, defendant has submitted the blank paper and other promissory note with the defendant, and plaintiff has turned over the signed sealed document into the agreement. And this agreement is irregularity which were discard the suit barred by the special performance. That's all.
So I would like to answer now. As he is stating about the section 92-91, the provision is when the agreement is done and a limitation provision is applied. It is before going to the provision we have to learn the general, and we are talking about here the general provision, not about the circumstances which appear in the provision. So we have to talk about the general rule, not the provision here.